Hi.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yay! That means we
Woo.
can hear each other.
Communication.
What a good day.
It's my major.
Wow. No wonder
Yeah,
you're so good at
I know.
it.
Just getting my little space set up. I feel like we haven't done this normally in a while.
Yeah,
Why am
it's
I
been like a weird couple of weeks where we actually see each other.
regularly? Way
It's
too
like
much, I would
odd.
argue.
Yeah, good thing we're back to normal in different states. Phew.
Still same time zone though. Still a little
Yeah,
close
it
for
could
me,
be,
but
yeah, it could be better, but
yeah, it's fine for now.
we'll see. We'll see.
Don't be tilting on me. Yay.
Yay!
Hi.
What's up? Hi.
Howdy. Oh, hold on.
Howdy too. Wow.
I'm back.
Hi.
Hi. I got all my stuff ready, but then I remembered that I left it out in the front room.
Um, so it wasn't very helpful.
Texting me. Okay. I just joined a ward group chat a couple days ago.
Ugh.
I've never been in a ward where they talk to each other so much. It's exhausting. Why are you guys
That's
friends?
so,
Shut up.
yeah, that's annoying.
Text
Oh,
each
it's
other
a
on your
whole
own
board.
time.
Like, yeah, I feel like if there's usually in a group chat that's really talkative, it's the same like four people. So why don't they just create their own group
Your
chat since they
own
like
little
to
group
talk to each other
chat.
so much? And then
Hmm.
keep the one like the official business one all about the official business.
Exactly. Tell me about ward
That's what I say,
activities.
but
Fine.
no, what do I
But
know?
stop texting me about the PS5 like ad up for sale.
Like,
I'm
I
not
don't
interested.
care. I'm not on the market for a PS5. Please start a
No,
separate group chat for this.
my PS5 is speaking to me inside my brain. There it is. Okay, so I had to do, well, we'll get into it in a minute. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
What are we getting into in a minute? Ooh,
Oh, well,
steamy.
as you know, we're really good at planning ahead and we're very prepared all the time.
Yeah, always.
And we've known for, I mean, weeks what we were going to talk about today.
Yes.
Hmm.
We have the whole year plotted out, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was our New Year's resolution. Just
52 weeks.
plan every week.
That doesn't sound like that many. We probably could.
Yeah, yeah, we
The
could.
problem
We've already
is
done
that it,
40.
yeah, yeah.
And that's
You
just
know,
of the files that like weren't corrupted or deleted or stolen. So honestly, like it
have we
wouldn't be
really
that
done
hard.
40?
Yeah, there's 37 posted right now, like
That's
or
amazing. Like,
waiting. Yeah.
away. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
We're really impressive. What's that thing where they're like, without proper motivation, people wouldn't do anything? It's
It's a
the
lie.
thing. Well, obviously, it's the same reason why people go on Minecraft and build like the Library of Alexandria. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
our Library of Alexandria.
We want to. This is my
Similar
Roman
in that
Empire.
it burns, will not be saved for posterity.
Yeah. Hmm. I just feel like no matter which direction I turn this, it ends up underneath where I want it to be.
That sounds really good if you just hold it right there.
I don't want to be that guy. I want to use my hands. I would put it back where it was. It was fine before. It was fine.
I don't
Whatever.
have an acronym.
Oh, well, is that because we don't have a topic?
It
Or,
did flip upside down. I thought maybe you were
yeah,
lying.
I don't lie. I've never lied.
I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Forget I said anything, actually.
I'll try.
Do you want to talk about Prince of Egypt today?
Oh, sure. Dedicated listeners will know that we have already talked. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I remember it
it
was
was
a
really
beautiful
good.
day.
It was really nice. We got
I,
blizzards after.
we did for cheap
Yeah,
too, right?
it was a really good day. It was like 89 cents blizzard day.
Oh my gosh.
But whatever.
Yeah, we had to go
It
through the
doesn't
app
matter.
and that was fine. 89-cent
Yeah, well,
blizzards.
because we got to the drive-through and we were like, oh, I don't know how to use the app. And he was like, whatever. Just put it in for us. Like he was like, I don't care.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, that was a really nice
Oh,
person.
apathetic drive-through workers. They're really carrying this country on their backs.
That is a fact.
Let's see. I have this old mirror, but I use it to wedge
Uh-huh.
under, well, you don't need to know this, but I use it to wedge under my mattress to have like a little table because I'm too far away from the bed to actually use the bed as a table, but I'm too close between the mattress and the chair to have like a separate little table. So this is a really good in between.
Hmm.
And that's what that was. And we don't need to talk about it anymore.
Cool. Well, fine. That's nice.
Okay. So, this week we had in one of my classes, this is not steady, and I'm sorry. I'm gonna maybe, can I, is this better? Yeah. All right. This week in one of my classes, we had to write about a movie with a non-religious movie with religious themes in it.
Mhm.
And I picked Prince of Egypt, right? Um, and we were meant to
How do
write,
you define a religious movie and a non-religious movie? Like, how do you differentiate between a movie with religious themes?
I'm combining assignments. The last one was about a non-religious movie with religious themes. This is about like this one was like specifically like religious themes. Non-religious was a different thing. That's my bad. I don't
Okay.
mean to be misleading you. I'm sorry.
Like, I don't understand the categories.
The non-religious thing with religious themes, I picked Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Hmm.
I guess with like religious themes, it's more like spiritual themes.
Okay, right.
So like that one, the idea of like redemption or, past lives and being connected to spirituality, that kind of a thing.
Hmm. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
I thought you were
Um,
gonna say nope, actually, but it's okay. It's everything's fine.
when I tell you I've had an off week, I need you to believe.
No,
It
I
was so
believe.
funny because I was sitting there like, friend, I was like, we literally talk about this every single week. I don't know what's wrong with me. I cannot come up with anything because the only thing that I've been thinking about for the past 2 weeks, and I'm not even gonna like, I'm not gonna get into it again. We've talked about it enough,
Hmm.
but is that stupid movie
Hmm.
Ravenous? And
Yeah.
there are a few religious themes in there, but I'm like, I can't do that for every single assignment in this class. I need to mix it up a little bit. So I was like, there's another movie. I know there's another movie. I could not think of it. And so I was like, Avatar is a good answer for any question. I'll put that one down. There it is. Okay, that
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You should have just
answers that
consulted me
question.
immediately, but whatever.
I
It's fine. We
should.
can do that.
Sometimes I worry that I, because I feel like I ask you for advice on every single one of my assignments, and at this point, I'm just gonna start like CCing you on all of my assignment emails.
Yeah. I think you would. That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so the assignment was to write 200 words on this movie with religious themes, what you like about it, how they depict religion and faith and believers and leaders and all this stuff. Um,
Mhm.
I wrote 1,000 words before I even took a breath because oh, I'm not um like super normal about it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah. He didn't have Prince of Egypt on the list of movies like suggested to watch either.
Hmm.
And before he was even done explaining the assignment, I'd already written out an email asking if I could do this one. And it was funny because you could see his email refresh on the screen and mine pop up
Like in class, you're like, "Hey, that's
like
me."
in class. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so funny. You're
And
like, "I
he's
will not be raising my hand to make comments in this class. I'll just be
oh
emailing you.
no.
So make sure you refresh that often so we can address my questions in class that I will not be saying
Yeah.
out loud. Thank you."
And I know that him and I are on the same wavelength because as soon as he finished his lecture, before he got into the next one, he turned off the screen, he typed something out, and then turned it back on, and then we got on with it, and he had emailed
And
me
then you
back.
refresh your email.
He
Nice.
said, "That's a good one. I love the music." Joel is my best friend.
Oh, it's Joel. Oh,
It's
of
Joel.
course.
Of course, it's gonna
Yeah.
be Joel, right? Every good thing comes back to Joel. Joel Campbell, if you're listening, we're your biggest fans.
That's true. That's true.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, anyway, there's a lot of things about this movie that I can talk about, and we could come up with an acronym.
We could, because I sure don't remember the other one.
Why is that?
Oh, well, for anybody who hasn't heard, obviously dedicated listeners already know this, but just for anybody who hasn't heard, we recorded a video about the Prince of Egypt and it was beautiful. We did it in person on a beautiful day that was sunny, but then it also started snowing when we got
Mhm.
blizzards, and so that was like a nice
It was
little fun little moment.
perfect. We were
And
on topic, we were fun, we were
we
entertaining.
were so in sync. Yeah, everything
Hmm.
everything that's good about a podcast, we got it.
Yep.
And then like a week later, my laptop was stolen.
It should get easier every time
I
we
know,
talk
I
about it,
know.
but that's still the saddest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that was a rough one because it's
Oh,
like that one, and we did two episodes about the Princess Bride. Everything else
yeah.
that we talked about, I'm like, what? It's okay that I got lost. It's fine. We were just figuring stuff out. But those, I'm like, hmm,
I still
uh-oh.
think about our Princess Bride ones.
Yeah.
That was us just starting out, and I still think, I mean, not to
Some of
disparage
our best
ourselves.
work.
Exactly. It's just
Yeah,
gone downhill from there.
it has. It really has. We were on the top of our game. And now we're still recovering from this loss. Grief takes many forms, and it's okay.
Hmm.
And
We're
that's
going
what
through
this podcast
the
is really all about.
it's processing that grief.
Surface level, it's about movies, but come on.
And that's for, viewers to interpret and dig into that a little bit more because
Yeah,
we're nothing if not meta, you know? We're going to talk about
true.
movies and we're going to leave little trails of breadcrumbs for you guys to pick out and figure out what you will. Psychoanalyze us.
Mhm.
If you figure out what's wrong with me, maybe DM me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking up a good word for this one letter.
Which one?
Guess.
M.
Oh, that's too bad. It was E.
Oh, I was really close. I was only one away.
Yeah, yeah. It's the neighbor. And really, if you think
Mhm.
about it, it's just an E turned sideways. So
That's true. It can be. Yeah. Depending on which way you turn it. Because otherwise it would be
it's
stew.
a dub. We could have that be our acronym for the day. Women in stew.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we should start calling the off the clock ones, like the ones that are
Women
not
in stew.
women in
That's
STEM and
good.
women in stew. That's
I
actually,
like it.
interesting idea. Can I tell you something?
Please do.
It's February, correct? February 2nd, which is Groundhog Day. Not that that
Last I
matters.
checked. Oh, today's Groundhog Day.
Yeah, and we don't have to talk about that movie. I'm just saying that it's raining and it's been raining all day, and it's February in Idaho, and so I'm concerned is the thing.
It's also been raining all day here.
Hmm. And it's a little
Um,
warmer there, but it is also still also February there.
little bit. It is February. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually we have some rainy days and some snowy. Mostly it's snowy, but it's really wet and slushy. Um,
Hmm.
odd for
Yeah,
you,
weird.
especially. That
Hmm.
place is uh cold as hell.
Yep. A couple days ago, it was a high of 47
Oh my gosh. In Rexburg?
in January. That's
Yeah.
almost 50 degrees.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
nothing wrong
normal.
here. This bodes well for everyone in the world. Everything's fine.
I think that warmth is going to be what sets off that super volcano.
Oh, yeah, it's been dormant forever. We're like, whatever, it'll take a million billion years for it to ever actually erupt. But then the the rate of climate change is like taking like, oh, in a million billion years it'll be this temperature in Yellowstone.
Uh-oh.
We're all doomed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They told us about that super volcano in like sixth grade,
Yeah, the
maybe
perfect
younger.
age to panic about it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, no one really knows when it's going to erupt. And like, why would you say that?
Yeah,
It
it's
makes
not
it
like
sound
fun little information. It's
in
like, be aware. You could die at any moment.
yes. I was like, my
Yeah.
family lives there. I was convinced for weeks they were all going to explode. And then
Yeah.
my only consolation was we were far enough away out of the zone. And now we're in North Dakota. And oh, did you hear that? It's getting
Yeah.
worse.
It's like,
It's
oh,
getting,
are you? Oh, where do you live again? Sorry, I didn't quite get that.
I'm from North Dakota. Yep. My friend, so you know my friend Grace,
Mhm.
she was over the other night and we were talking as we oft the conversation often circles back to how I speak.
Mhm.
Um,
Just because you're unique, you're the only person in the world with your particular
it's
accent.
no one can even imitate it. People have tried. My MTC companion, she tried to imitate me because she was really good at accents. She never cracked it. It drove her nuts.
Yeah.
Genuinely, she talked about it constantly because she's like, I just don't know what's like how you're doing it. It should be
Like
impossible.
every vowel is like not the one you'd expect.
The I like oh, here's where I was going. My friend Al, she just got back from her study abroad. So glad to have her back. She's studying like linguistics.
Mhm.
And we were talking about it because she's like, wait, no, how'd you say that again? And she pulled out her notebook and started scribbling. She's like, no, keep talking, keep talking. It took me an embarrassingly long time before I realized she didn't want me to talk because she was interested in hearing what I had to say, but how I had to say what I wanted to say.
Yeah, yeah,
She's
yeah, yeah.
scribbling out in
She's
phonetic
scribbling.
code.
She's an IPA. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a subject worthy of scientific study. Not many people can say that.
Maybe you can get something named after you.
Maybe that would be fun.
Yeah, if anyone finds out what's wrong with Whitney, send us a little quick little email and let us know, and maybe she can get something named after her.
Mhm. Maybe even some funding too. Like a
Yeah.
GoFundMe. Help this poor girl.
Yeah.
She can't see her O's. Even the Midwesterners are like, oh, that's
Whoa, hey,
that's
that's a little much.
that's
Don't
bad.
be rude. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just writing down a few notes before we begin. I got this really cool pen. I think I might have told you about it already, but it's a brush tip pen.
Oh, uh-huh.
Did that work? I'm trying to do what YouTubers do. Anyway,
Yeah,
it's
I think it
beautiful.
worked
I
for probably a second.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
we can freeze frame it.
We'll zoom way in, and then it doesn't matter whether or not it was in focus because it isn't anymore. This is recorded on Zoom.
God. hmm I'm writing down a ton of notes, and we're not going to talk about them all. Like, don't worry. It's all gonna
Well,
like
now I'm worried.
I don't want you to fear that we're gonna be on the call for like 3 hours. I'm gonna narrow it down. So I'm writing a lot of
Okay,
notes,
to
but
two.
that doesn't mean to two. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, uh-huh. Mhm.
I don't know if you're aware because you don't have socials, but um, there's this thing on Be Real where you have your regular Be Real that's for everybody that you follow, but then you all can also have groups.
Aw,
So there's one that's just me, Emily, and Lillian, and that one just went. So anyway,
is that Emily
I'll
the
be real, the one that you know, yeah.
Hi Emily, if you want to pass that on.
Oh yeah. I will because it's kind of fun. You have like your Be Real where you take a picture, but then there's
Yeah,
also like a chat and it saves everyone's pictures like over since you started
that's fun.
and you have a little yeah, you can have a little chat. So I'll just tell them
That's
that you said
way
hi.
cute. Like a little virtual scrapbook
Yeah,
that's shared. That's really cool.
it's nice. They're doing all these like new features and most of them I am like not a fan of, but the groups I am a fan of.
What is it with social media starting out perfect and progressively getting worse?
I know. It's because they have to, once they have enough people on their app that they're like actually turning a profit, whatever, they're like, oh, now we have to do what everyone else is doing instead of keeping to the thing that made people want to download the app in the first place.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
like, this is just a fun thing. Like, once a day, everybody at the same time takes a picture of what they're doing. And it's just a fun way to check in with people without having to like text them or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's just like a cute, nice thing. But
Yeah.
now they're doing like, I don't know, all this other stuff. I keep deleting the notifications, but
hmm
they're making big change. I like, don't do that.
Stop. Just stop.
Like, I
We don't
want to
have to.
see a picture of everybody studying every single day because none of us do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. My old coworker, Grace, every single picture, because she showed me a lot, her Be Real pictures. Every single one was just her at work. Because that was
Mhm.
just the only place she ever was.
Yeah, it's like if you work from 9 to 5, the
It's a
time that the B
good
reel
chunk
goes
here.
off is most likely during that time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes off at like 7 a.m. I'm like, nobody,
Oh my gosh.
why would nobody wants to take a picture at 7 a.m., but
You know that
whatever.
one
That's
meme
beside the
of the
point.
guy like
Yeah.
What else are you expecting?
That's what it is. Or everybody's just uploading like 3 hours late because nobody wants to take a picture at 7 a.m.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Anyway, yeah, it's just the state of social media, it's like too much of a good thing. They're like, oh, we have to make this worse. We have to ruin this. Let's
Yeah.
turn everything into TikTok for some reason. And you're like, I don't,
TikTok is its own thing. We can
we
keep
can
it
just have
separate.
these all be separate things. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
I hate YouTube Reels. Or what are they called?
Yeah.
Shorts. Instagram
Shorts, YouTube
Reels.
Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok, which are all the same thing.
It's the same. A lot of times
Just
stolen
repost it.
from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's gonna be this
Like you'll
endless
see,
cycle
like you watch
of
like an Instagram reel and you're like, oh, that's actually pretty funny. And then you check the comments and the top comment is like, hey, this is my TikTok. And you're like, uh
yeah, because who's posting Instagram Reels? No one. They're
yeah,
stolen from
that's the
TikTok
thing.
and
No one.
then go to Instagram and then they migrate to YouTube. And it's like
Most
it's
of the time
annoying
that
when it's
is
just
true.
a still image, right? When you like, oh, I saw that on it's a Tumblr thread, but you're like, I saw it on Pinterest when I was 13 and it's
Yeah.
eventually cycled through to be on Facebook, like
Yeah.
last week. But
It's the
it's
same thing where you're like, I saw this on TikTok a month ago, or like my friend sent this to me a month ago,
yeah.
or on Instagram. Yeah.
I just think we need to shut it all down. At least for like a
Yeah,
week,
for real.
you know? Just let's all just like a hard reset. Let's just
Give everyone some space here, man.
yeah.
Sit down and think about what you've done. If you're designing a social media thing to be exactly like TikTok, stop. Get some help.
Get some help. There's a support line. We'll put it in the description down below. Just, you know, we're worried about you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have an
Anyway,
acronym picked out if you want to hear it.
sure.
Okay, I was going to tell you anyway, so I'm glad you want to.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm like, no, no.
I have, and I'm flexible on this to a point.
Okay.
Um,
You may change one letter.
yeah, actually,
Okay, great.
okay, super, tremendous, effervescent, magnificence. I couldn't remember if we've used effervescent in a title before.
I don't remember. I feel like we always are like, oh, we have to save that for something special. So I don't know if we ever have. Um, was the first one super?
It was super, but we use
We do
that for,
use we do use super a lot. We used it for
hmm
Bahubali, and we've probably used it another
We
time.
definitely use it for Incredibles.
Okay.
What
Oh yeah,
about
because that was
stunning?
supers.
Supers,
Stunning could be
trumpets.
good. I don't we haven't done stunning yet.
And it is, okay, yeah, that's
It
good.
is pretty stunning. And if you want them to not all be adjectives, the M could be Moses, but I do like how it's just four adjectives.
That could work. Yeah.
They work either way.
Um, I'm good with either. If you want when you're titling it, you make the call.
Yeah. I will. When it's really down to the wire, it's like just call it like
Sweating.
upload, and then it still takes like 45 minutes. They're like,
Well, hi, welcome to Women in STEM.
hi, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me join you. I'm so happy to just hear what you have to say as an
Yeah.
expert in uh stunning, tremendous, ex effervescent, marvelous
Sure.
Moses. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm so glad you could
You're the
join me.
expert. I'm just trying to remember. This is what I've pretty much just learned. I'm not,
Hmm
I'm not
Yeah,
sure,
well,
but I'm just hoping to gain a lot of insight today from the
yeah,
master teacher, if you will.
well, I appreciate your willingness to learn and approach this subject with open eyes. I know we haven't really talked about it much before. This is kind of uh new territory for us to talk about.
Mhm.
Really, movies in general, but specifically this one. This one rarely comes up, if ever. And I just feel like you know, getting it out and open and really digging into it, it'll be a healthy experience for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think so. Broaden our horizons a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I do have my uh poison health drink. So
Wait, that reminds
you
me that I have a drink that I left in the garage so it would get all nice and chill, and I'm gonna go get it.
drink, 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 drink.
Yay!
Yay.
I I know I'm gonna trip on everything. Hang on.
No, you're not. You'll be fine.
You were right. I was fine.
Ah, shit. That was so scary.
Sorry. I've never seen you jumped like to the top of the screen. That's really and we have the black bars on bottom and top, so it's really impressive. I don't know how you exited the
The scream was so powerful. I can literally bend the
space and
what's the
time.
word? Digital. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
digital realm, if you will.
I will. What drink?
It's this. It's not a sparkly, it's just yummy. Watermelon chili,
Oh,
where if you drink only a little bit of it, it tastes mostly like watermelon. But if you get like a swig, then there is like a little
little hint of
spicy burst, like a little hint of chili, which is very nice.
that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's yummy.
That's kind of like the opposite of drinking this is for the most part it just tastes like
Because that's
gasoline.
unpleasant. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes the aftertaste tastes like strawberries.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, Bang sponsor me. I'll like I'm doing this for free, but I don't have to. Collab.
Whitney Bang collab when come to
To
Brazil.
Brazil.
That's like my favorite thing ever to say, just because so much of the time, like growing up, and things that I would watch on YouTube, it was mostly like music and stuff because Spotify hadn't really like popped off yet, and people just mostly
Right.
use YouTube for that kind of thing. And like the comment section on like every single artist that I listened to was like, please come to Brazil. So I always just thought it was so funny. But then like literally 2 days ago, somebody commented on like a Hosier Instagram post, like come to Brazil. And I was like, yes, it's
Nature is
still like
healing.
it doesn't just have to be a meme. I can't believe they made Brazil in real life.
Every time Neil talks about it, that's what I think of. Like he talks about wanting to go back and work there. And I just
Uh-huh.
lose it thinking about his employers being like, come to Brazil, Neil, come on, please. They're his biggest fans.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's great. He called me last night. He said he's out of meds. And we were just talking about it, and
So what, you're supposed to supply him with more?
it was mostly like a
What do
commiseration
I
kind of a
do?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of, when you don't have it, then you don't realize that you're not functioning at 100% or even like
Uh-huh.
90%. You're doing
Uh-huh.
like 45 or 50 at the most.
Hmm.
And there's a wall in there. And then when you start taking medication, then suddenly the wall isn't there anymore, but you don't really notice that the wall isn't there anymore because your brain just like naturally wants to work well. So it's not like a thing of like, oh, I better do that pile of laundry or like, oh, I'll just wash this dish while I'm up and about. It's like you think about it after and you realize that was kind of a big deal. And then once you don't have the medication anymore, then suddenly the wall is back up and you realize how it is impassable.
Hmm.
And so it was like that. He's like, I've been in bed all day, like trapped on Instagram. And I was
Hmm.
like, I don't know, my heart goes out for you. That's
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
I took um I don't know, on like Wednesday maybe. for the first time in,
Months.
6 months or something.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't bothered to go back, there was like a shortage or whatever, and I was like, I'm too tired to to keep trying to come back. So I just have like a few like leftover from however many months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I don't know, it was kind of weird because I've been actually pretty good without. Like, I think I just have learned the best things that work for me without it. So then I took it and I was like, what's going on? Like, why are colors so like bright? It was kind of freaky. And I was up all night.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Every single night I have a hard time going to sleep, and every single night I get so frustrated. Like, why is this happening to me? Babe, maybe it's because you're on like stimulants and also you over caffeinate yourself every single day.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a surprise. Here we are though. Anyway, should we get started?
Yeah, we already did the Welcome to Women in STEM, but let's just do it again real
Yeah.
quick.
Well, I was gonna start with a prayer. We haven't done that bit in a while. I thought we'd bring it back for
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. For the dedicated listeners who knew that we used to always say that.
although that might be mostly from our lost episodes. So
I think
that
so.
might
Yeah.
might be a joke just for us.
Yay.
Okay, so let's talk about Prince of Egypt. Now, I'm totally neutral about this movie. I don't like
Yeah,
I'm
I think for this new phase in our life, where we have all these 52 episodes completely planned. We are
yep.
trying to take a more objective approach. We just talk about like the way that the movie was made, the production of it, all of this,
Mhm.
and kind of keep our personal feelings out of it, or at least until the end. So it's like,
Right.
here's this objective reality of the movie, and then, by the way, this is how I feel about it. And so that's what we're doing.
Kind of sounded like you said booby instead of movie.
Nice.
All right. So, The Prince of Egypt, 1998, made from DreamWorks Productions, right? Um,
Typical.
yeah, not that doesn't really sound out of the ordinary on the surface until you look a little bit closer and you realize that The Prince of Egypt was released. It was the second movie ever released by DreamWorks Pictures, the first being the animated film Ants, which was the crappy knockoff to Disney's A Bug's Life, because one of the men working on that project had a big falling out with Disney, and he just left and made his own company, produced a similar movie at the same time, and then from there he's like, what if we change the animated world forever? Because
Mhm.
Ants was whatever, and then the second movie that they produced, that they made, was The Prince of Egypt, an animated musical about the story of the Exodus from the Bible.
Yeah, you know that one.
Yeah, not many other Exoduses. Exodi? That's lunatic. I like it's such a good movie that sometimes I forget about the context that it was created in. I mean, they were making Shrek at the same time. Shrek and the Prince of Egypt were like that. It's so like Disney is pretty consistent with the type of movies that it makes. And so for
Mhm.
DreamWorks to go from point A to point B just like that is so fun for my brain to think about, because they're just this is what I love about DreamWorks, is that they're not afraid to take risks, and they're not afraid to explore different genres, like, going from a biblical animated musical to a talking
Shrek.
Scottish ogre.
Yeah.
No one's doing it like her. I'm telling you.
That's true.
Yeah. So 1998, sorry,
And that's always
the
been true,
world has
right? Because the
changed.
whole
Yeah.
point, like we talk about DreamWorks being like the anti-Disney, and
Hmm.
knowing that the one animator like left A Bug's Life to make Ants, like literally from the beginning, this studio has been anti-Disney.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
And we love them for that. Wonderful. And I love too because are you okay?
It was so scary.
Oh, it's gonna be okay. Anyway, Ants, I've never seen Ants. I don't really want to. It doesn't seem like it's a good movie. Um,
Seems like
and
the ratatouille of DreamWorks movies.
yeah. Yeah, let's see if yeah, that's a little better. Um, it just seems awful. So the fact that they did that, and I don't think it was a commercial success, but that they continued on sticking to that initial premise of being anti-Disney, of being like, we're going to make the stories that we want to make, regardless of whether really anybody wants them or is asking for them. I don't think anyone was asking for the Prince of Egypt, is what I'm saying. But the fact that they delivered it anyway, I'll be forever grateful for that. And so it really opens up your eyes to the possibilities of new creative ventures. No one's asking for it, but how could someone make it beautiful? How could someone make like no one was asking for a Puss in Boots too?
Mhm.
No one,
But they didn't
but
know
they did it anyway.
that they should have, you know?
Exactly.
Like if you've
Yeah.
seen Puss in Boots, then nobody's ever like, oh, there's so much undeveloped potential here, right? But then once the movie is out, you realize what a good thing it was that it came out, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people don't necessarily know that this is the movie that they want to see until they see it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Um, in making the movie because they and a lot of their artistic integrity shows through in this movie and the making of it because they consulted. I checked the statistics. They consulted over 600 religious experts in their like research phase. Um, Islam, uh, Judaism, Christian, of all different sects in within each category. They can, I mean, 600 people they consulted to make sure that this was as respectful, as anti-controversial, and as all-encompassing. They wanted this movie to be for everybody while still honoring, like, this is a story that all three Abrahamic religions share, but also it's a very strong Jewish movie, like a very rooted very deeply in Jewish themes and symbolism, and they wanted to respect
Mhm.
that, but they also wanted to respect, you know,
That other people can relate to the same story.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and the things that are kind of taboo in each religion. So they didn't want to have a physical depiction of God, um, all of these things, and they worked really, really hard, and you can see that throughout the movie, the things that they took such care to make as beautiful and as um widespread as possible without losing the heart of it. You know what I mean? They're not doing
Hmm.
it to make it, they're not watering it down, I guess is what I'm saying, to make it more palatable for everybody. They're concentrating it down into the essence that can be appreciated and understood by everybody. And that's, I think, the difference between those two things is they did it out of a
Yeah.
place of respect rather than like profitability. Um, and similarly, they have a large number of Jewish people on the cast. Um, I think the composer is Jewish. They had a few Jeff Goldblum, Sandra Bullock, to name just a few. Like I know the movie gets a little bit of backlash for not having people of color cast in it, and I think that's valid. But I also think it wasn't a huge topic of conversation in the late '90s either. Like it
Hmm.
today, yeah, absolutely, that would be a thing to consider. But I think given the feel weird saying historical
The
context
historical
of the
context of
1998,
1998.
but you know what I mean?
You know, back in the olden days.
Yeah, I don't even know if I mean I think this might have been one of the first movies with color because Well, now that I'm saying it, it might have invented color. I would stand by that. Oh my gosh. I'm not even gonna be, no one's gonna believe me. I threw my pen. Hold on.
Show me, show me. I'll believe you
I
when
mean,
I see it.
okay. I threw, hold on. I don't want my feet in here.
Ew.
Okay, I threw my pen. I flicked it.
Uh-huh.
Can you see it? It's that little thing in between each bag. It flew between the hole of the bottom. Like, I need you to know that they're connected at the top. It's not that there's a gap there that it fell through. It flew into the space, connecting the two bags. You know what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Kind of. It was pretty dark, so I can't see, but I'm trying to imagine.
Okay. Well, maybe later I'll sketch it out for you so we can.
Okay.
Kind of looks like a butt. Pen was here.
Huh. So the two bags, are they one bag?
No, they're two different bags, but they're pushed very tightly together.
Okay. I
But
see.
there's a gap where they connect, just tiny little tent
Right. And the pen was like,
right in there.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I don't know. I
Life
might
is
be a
beautiful.
superhero. Isn't it just? Okay. All right. So, freaking okay. Um,
Well,
production.
and
This
I
movie
think going back
took.
to the
Oh, go
other
ahead.
thing, like there's a lot of different kinds of representation. So even though it wasn't necessarily like the topic at the time wasn't having like people of color and people of like different ethnicities as their main goal, right? Their main goal is like how do we represent, because this is a Jewish story, how do we make sure we're representing Jewish people? So I think like I do think if they made it today, they would probably have different considerations, but we do also have to remember that there are different ways to represent a group of people.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, if it were made today, I don't think it would be made today. You know what I mean? I I don't think I know they're making a live action one, and I'm not going to talk about it because I still don't know how I feel about it. But um, like if the original hadn't been made and if they weren't doing like a live action remake, right? Who's there?
Oh, it's Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Whitney says hi. He says, "How dare she?" I mean, hi.
Oh, screw him. I mean, never mind.
Screw him. I mean, never mind. He says I'm not allowed to be happy while he's ruining my take, but I'm the editor. I don't care.
I mean, even when our whole episode got like deleted last week,
Which
I
was
mean,
a low blow.
it was a low
We
blow,
were
but you were
doing so
smiling.
well.
We were, but even then, you were only down for about 10 minutes. I
Yeah.
don't think there's a lot that could really ruin your takes. That's all I'm saying.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, I'm saying you're positive.
Oh.
Do you
I
want me to
wasn't
take
sure.
it back? I'm
No, it
sorry.
just sounds, I was like, I don't think there's a lot that could really ruin your takes. Like,
No, I mean it in a good way, I promise.
I understand and I believe you.
Thanks.
Yay.
I'm gonna move on. But
Okay.
going back to what I was saying, like we have the foundation of success from the original from 25 years ago, right? But if that weren't there, this movie wouldn't get made today. Like it's a religious
Yeah,
movie, there's a lot of
true.
controversy. It wouldn't get made. And so the fact that it was made back then, even if it's not a perfect movie, it doesn't discount, like you're saying, the good representation that it has. Because
Right.
visually, the characters, I mean, even if they're animated or even if they're voiced by like white American actors, I mean, they look Egyptian. Ramesses looks like an Egyptian man. I mean, I read this too in the production. They went through, I mean, thousands of Egyptian sculptures and hieroglyphs and paintings, all these things in order to like accurately capture the essence. Seti, Ramses' father, he looks almost exactly like his mummy. They captured the shape of his
Hmm.
nose, like the long, you know, they
Right.
they worked so hard to make sure that these characters were represented visually accurately. Um, and I don't know, I don't
And
think it's
like
fair.
for at the time as well. Like it's not like what do
Yeah,
Egyptians look like in the late 90s, but it's like what historically did this ethnic
exactly.
group tend to look like?
Yeah.
And I think like not to hmm, I'm trying to think about how to say this. Like it is really important to have diversity in our stories, um, in in places where that's a good and appropriate thing, but diversity and representation are not necessarily the same thing. And so it's
Yeah.
important that they're doing their research and they're talking with people to be respectful and be representative, even if it's not necessarily diverse, because it's not really a diverse story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really
It's
good point.
Egyptians and Jews, like and they're all from the same area of the world, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It is good representation though. Like they have like thick coily hair. I don't know. Visually the characters are just, I mean, they're beautiful. They're beautiful. Um, I don't know who designed the characters. I don't know. Whatever they were paid, they were not paid enough. I'm
God.
just gonna say that. God. Yeah. Oh, here's another fun
Yeah.
fact too. Um, on my study abroad that I did um last year.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Did you know that I did a study abroad?
That's so interesting. You must have learned more than any other person has ever learned in
Mhm.
school.
That's true. And I also appreciated it more than anyone else had ever appreciated it. I'm the
Oh
only one who
yeah,
got
that
it.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Anyway,
you
we were
feel like
talking
that was
about
pointed, maybe it was. Who's
Allison.
to say?
um anyway, we were talking about like historical, we don't know for sure who the pharaoh was in the original Exodus story, right? There's, I mean, no way to guarantee what time it occurred at, no way to completely 100% verify it historically, but researchers have kind of decided that um, Ramses and Seti were like the main pharaohs involved. Likely Seti would have been on the throne when Moses was growing up, but I mean, age-wise, however long he was out wandering in the desert, when he came back, likely it would have been Ramesses. So what I'm saying
Mhm.
is this wasn't even confirmed, I think, until 2000s, something or other. This movie came out in the 1990s. Um,
In the late 20th century, so it's basically
late 20th
ancient.
century. It's vintage. What I'm saying with this is that it's a perfect movie and like they did their research so well that they made an accurate guess as to who would have been there historically. They didn't just pick random Egyptian names.
Right.
They did their research so thoroughly that they accidentally guessed the correct pharaoh for the movie that they made after Ants.
Yeah.
Like,
The
no one
second
would have
movie,
cared.
the second movie ever from this studio. Yeah.
Yes. But they like it's mind-boggling to me. Anyway, it's historically perfect. I read another article that said that the depiction of Egyptian culture is one of the most accurate in any movie based, like centered in Egypt. Like you have movies like The Mummy that are not accurate at all. Um,
Yeah. Not really
and
meant to be.
no, whatever.
Yeah.
We're just here for fun and for Brendan Fraser. Um, and for what's his name? The beautiful one.
Hmm.
Why am I blanking on his you know him. Um
Yeah. It's too powerful to say his name out loud right now, I think.
yeah, he'd explode into 1,000 pieces. Um I've lost my um like the attire, the art, Moses' sandals when he takes them off and holds them up, they're based on Tutankhamun sandals from his sarcophagus. Like they've got the same little drawings on them. They've got like the the headwear for the pharaoh and for Moses' mother is completely historically accurate. Like those would be things that they actually would wear and have worn. All of the hieroglyphs on the walls that you see are accurate. Some of them are even lifted like from actual hieroglyphs. Um, there's a group of men playing, I think they call it Hounds and Jackals, which is a real game. No one really knows how it's played, but they know that it was a game that ancient Egyptians would play. It's like got a bunch of little pegs and little piece like all of these
Hmm.
things. The Egyptians wear mostly white linen, while the Midianites wear a lot of really heavily dyed woolen clothes. Like you can feel the weight of them when they move, and I, like I don't know. Again, it's just why do you need to put that much care into it?
Hmm.
It's a kids movie. Um, they didn't take any shortcuts. Not one single one. They cared so much about it. They didn't care if no one was going to notice this tiny little detail or, they cared. They cared that it was in there and that it was right as they
Hmm.
could make it. What do you say about that? No one is doing it like them. Like, I didn't think I'd get emotional over this part, but like, I'm actually losing my mind right now. Why did they do this? I'm so grateful that they did. Like, I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it there. There was no need, but they did it anyway. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I think it's something that we've kind of talked about before, right? The idea of like being um as as committed to the detail as possible, even if you're the only one who knows it. And I feel like we
yeah.
never really like there's like something there that we have probably never articulated in the way that we're thinking of it in our little brains,
Hmm.
but it's come up a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can figure out like if there's like a term for this specific thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's just really cool. It's art for art's sake. They did like
Mhm.
they didn't do it to make sure that they got awards or more funding or whatever. Like it took them 4 years to make this movie. And you can tell they invested so much in it
Mhm.
for the art of it itself. And that's beautiful. And you don't really see a lot of movies made like that anymore, just made to be beautiful for no other reason than for, being a passion project.
Mhm.
That's awesome. 2 of those 4 years, by the way, were spent on one single scene.
Were they really? Tell me more.
It's the Red Sea scene when Moses parts the Red Sea at the end of the movie.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
2 years. It's a 2-minute sequence.
Yeah.
That's what?
Year per minute.
And it shows. That's the most beautiful scene ever committed to the silver screen. I'm going to say that and I'm going to mean it. Everyone
Okay.
else can go home. this was after like 70 minutes of already the most beautiful animated movie in the world. And then they're like, we're not done yet, though. I think God probably saw that and was like, oh my gosh, do you remember it happening like that? Anybody like, oh my goodness. I think he was equally impressed.
Yeah.
Him and Moses were up there like shoveling popcorn in, like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. It's yeah.
Yeah.
hmm Speaking of God, um, I mentioned before that they approach that subject very, very carefully. Um, so what they did is they didn't want to have a physical depiction of God, because that's, you know, obviously going to be a pretty divisive thing how you choose to depict God. But
Yeah.
they also had a difficult time deciding how to voice God. What they initially decided to do is have every actor voice the lines and then they layer it over so it kind of sounds like ethereal and, you know, overwhelming. But
Hmm.
they had a hard time. It sounded more like a pantheon of voices, and they didn't like that. They wanted to have a one singular God. And so what they did is they had everybody whisper the lines instead, and then had Val Kilmer who voiced Moses. Yeah, that's right. Val Kilmer voiced Moses. And
Yeah.
like he's the best, like this is the best movie in his career. I know he's a talented actor. I know he's done a lot. This is his
Hmm.
magnum opus. I would never like anyway. So he voices Moses and he voices God. And I'm usually pretty good about picking out voice actors. For 18 some odd years of my life, this was one of my favorite movies, and I never ever knew that Val Kilmer also was the voice of God because they he did a really good job about making it impressive and grand and compassionate.
Hmm.
And like the theological implications there too are insane because it's God speaking to Moses with a voice he knows he'll understand. It's familiarity. It's I know you so well. This is how I'm going to choose to like interact with you. That's so tender. And you can still hear the whispers underneath the rest of it. So it still
Of
has that
everyone
sense of
else's voice. Yeah.
yes, yes. And so when this is another insane scene, the burning bush scene. Um, and the actual movie is so beautiful itself, but also the storyboard ideas for it equally visually stunning. It's so beautiful. But this scene is so incredible how God communicates with Moses, you know, using his own voice, but also by playing Moses back his own memories and hearing his past come back at him. It brings this idea that God is so all encompassing, so omnipresent and so fluid almost that he can reach back through time and bring these things to the forefront. It's so beautiful and so elegant and like delicately done. They didn't want to be overhanded with it, and they weren't.
Hmm.
They chose just enough to make it feel, I mean, like ethereal. I'm going to use that word again. It's just maybe that should be E.
Hmm. Yeah.
So then we can
We can
save
still save
effervescent.
effervescent for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
call.
And the I mean how they interpret scripture too, how they bring it to life is just it's powerful. It's so powerful. When Moses is like shaking and crying as he leaves the cave, he's so overwhelmed but overjoyed. He runs out barefoot, runs immediately to go tell his wife Zipporah about everything that's happened, and you feel every what help me find the word here. What am I trying to say? It like reaches out and grabs you.
Hmm. Yeah,
I,
gripping.
there sure there are so few movies that are like tangible
Hmm.
that you actually feel like what that person is going through. And this is early, I guess, animation especially for DreamWorks. Like this is the first 2D animated movie that
It's their
they
first
ever
good
made.
movie.
Their first good movie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the way that they animated Moses, especially to make him so human, you can see the
Mhm.
thought process on his face. That doesn't happen very often with animated characters where you can like visually track their thoughts.
Mhm.
Usually they just, if they're not talking, then they don't really bother with it. But with Moses, and this was a big thing that the animators focused on too, is a lot happens with Moses there, but him not being part of a conversation. And so they emphasized, how do we show what he's thinking without making him say it? And so that was a
Mhm.
huge project, is
Because
figuring out how to
he's
animate
still on the
emotions.
stage, so he still has to be acting. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
Um, no, I mean, it's just every like scene or moment that you talk about, I can like see it in my head. And I know like you watched this movie a lot, like growing up at all of this, and I've really only seen it a couple times, but I still feel like it is a very impactful and memorable movie that when
Mm-hmm.
you like mention like, oh, the burning bush scene, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what it looks like. Like I can
Yeah.
watch it in my mind, even though I've only seen it a couple times.
Yeah.
I think yeah, it just speaks to like the power of the movie. Like everything that they wanted to do, they did.
And more. Yeah. It's a masterpiece. I mean, really, people don't like, because usually when I people ask me what my favorite movie is, it alternates, and it's all often a DreamWorks movie, which is a pattern I hadn't noticed until a couple years ago. But it alternates between like Megamind and this one, and maybe Shrek 2. A lot, they have a lot of good ones. This one has got to be like up there, But people initially they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a good movie." I don't know if it's like, you know, pe- it's it's still underrated.
Hmm.
It's like the frick. We talk about a lot the things that are like overrated but maybe still underrated.
Right, like
It's
things that everybody knows and everybody likes, but you still feel like nobody knows them like I do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a good movie. It's a favorite childhood movie, sure. But have you watched it recently? Because it'll make you bleed. It's so good. Um, the character of Moses too is really special because, like with God, they wanted to be careful about how they uh characterized him. He's a prophet, and
Hmm.
he's a very important figure, but they also didn't want to make him too like perfect, you know,
Right.
because even in the scriptures he made
Because he's
mistakes.
a
He
prophet, but he's not God.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So they wanted to strike a balance between making him believable as a person and humanizing him with while still being respectful of his calling and his position in religious history. um and I love his character. I love Moses. How they did it is, I mean, it's astounding. He's so like heartbreakingly human. He has flaws and he's reckless, especially when he's young. His first couple of scenes, he's reckless and he's kind of selfish and uh just rushes forward without really thinking about the consequences of his actions. Uh
Hmm.
and then you get to see this growth. One scene that I love in particular is after so Zipporah is kidnapped, right? And she's brought forward as a gift to Ramses. Um, and she's fighting, and Moses has hold of the rope, and she says, "Let me go." And he's like, "Okay." And he lets her go, and she falls in the fountain, and she's humiliated in front of everybody, and everybody's laughing, and he's kind of chuckling too. And then he turns back and looks at his parents, and his mother is she frowns and she turns away in shame.
Hmm.
And that's one of the first moments where Moses is like, "Oh, I messed up. And he looks away too, and everyone else is still laughing, and it's like no one's even noticing him, but he has that hurt immediately. Like, I don't want to be that person that makes my mother look like that.
Hmm.
And that's a subject maybe even for another day, the role of women in Moses' life. It's, I mean, he wouldn't have done anything without I mean, his biological mother set it like set him adrift in the river. His, Pharaoh's in this movie, Pharaoh's wife, um, Zipporah, his wife, Miriam, that's the name, his sister Miriam helps him to find his faith and realize his position in all of this. Like every major change that Moses makes in the movie is because a woman in his life helps him to that path. Um, and I love the role of his mother, like Pharaoh's wife, because she's not really in a lot of the movie, but she's still so present. Like you can see her in the background, kind of like holding up a hand in warning, like don't go any further, or like that's enough. We're, move on. You do you see what I'm saying? Even the background characters, they put so much attention to the detail and so much respect for their position.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, um, Moses' development, he kind of starts to change. He's always cared about his brother, right? Ramesses, he works really hard to get him out of trouble and to help their father see him for what he could be, for his potential. Uh, and so the movie starts with them destroying a temple on accident, right? Because of their chariot race. They weren't really thinking and they didn't really care. They ruined it. They destroyed a wall and everything is ruined. And Moses doesn't really care about this. It's no big deal. No one's going to get in trouble. But then after he finds out his heritage, who he is and where he came from, suddenly he has this realization of, I could so easily have been in their shoes. Like he sees their
Hmm.
faces, but he's seeing himself there instead. Because the fact that he ended up where he is a miracle, and it should not have happened. And he is just, I mean, for the first time in his life, seeing the consequences of his actions. These aren't just nameless, faceless things that can just clean up his mess wherever he goes. They're people and they are suffering.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's overwhelming. And it's such a short scene, but they communicate this so well. And again, without him even saying any of this, it's just visual. He's just walking through the crowd and kind of like, I don't know, beautiful. The point of this is to say that they demonstrate his growth consistently throughout the movie with real consequences. It's
Yeah.
not that he changes just because, it's because every time he changes, he sees something that he needs to change and then does. Like
Right. Right.
he becomes a shepherd when he meets up with the Midianites because he needs to learn how to be responsible for something. And you see, like, it's A, B, C, right? He sees who he was at A, and so he goes to B, but B is also preparing him to move to C. He becomes a shepherd because he was never responsible for anything, and being a shepherd is also helping him prepare to be responsible, to be a leader of the Hebrews.
Hmm.
All of these things are uh, help shaping him. They're helping to shape him into the person that he is currently and also the person that he needs to be in the future. Lovely. Fantastic. That's more scriptural than anything this movie had to do with necessarily, but
Yeah. But that's the deeper context that they're not telling, but they are showing, right? So if you're familiar with the story, then you'll be like, oh, I understand why this is happening in this way. If it's something that's important to you in a religious aspect, then of course you say like, oh, I'm glad that they depicted this way because that strengthens or affirms my faith in some way. And I think
right.
it's yeah, it's a good um this movie is just like a perfect example of that like show don't tell. Like there's not like a voiceover where he's like, in that moment I knew I was wrong, because that's so lame. Like we can see that it happens.
Yes.
he recognizes the problem, he feels guilt, and he doesn't have to say anything. And I think it also there's like a I don't know, a lot of movies now I think are afraid of the main character having flaws. And so there's a lack of character development or character growth because, oh, Moses has always, I mean, he's a prophet. He was chosen by God. His whole life is a miracle. So, of course, he has always been noble and he has always looked out for the little guy and he has always understood suffering and been fair to people of all genders and all races and all creeds, right? Whereas the the important thing of the story is that, like, yes, his life is a miracle and he was chosen to be a prophet by God, and so he had to become that.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 And that's
No. Yes.
yeah. That's the beautiful thing, right? I mean, about the movie and about like narratively, that's what makes the story
Mhm.
so compelling. But also, I mean, doctrinally, no one
Yeah.
starts out perfect. And what I love about him is that they show good qualities right away. He's loyal and he loves his brother and he loves his family and he will help Zipporah even because he knows
Yeah.
she shouldn't be held here against her will. The little things while also magnifying the things about him that he does need to change eventually. Like no
Right.
matter where we start out, we can
There's
change
that
into the
potential, that
exactly,
capability to
exactly the
become better.
potential.
Yeah, by growing, oh, this little seed of goodness, we can grow that
Yes.
into something better, and we can try to eliminate or, weed out these things that are not beneficial to us or to the people that we're around.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I
Yeah.
like how you said, like, it's doctrinally very profound, and it also just follows the narrative. So, like, whoever is watching this movie, whatever their religious beliefs or, whether or not they even have any, it is something that you can relate to. You know that every person over the course of their life develops good and bad things in their character.
Yeah.
And so it's compelling to watch Moses because he has this really profound life and profound story, and he's just like me. For real.
He just like me for real. He's so human. He's so real. And again, it's because I've seen this movie so many times, but he feels like someone doesn't he?
Mhm.
Like just he feels like an older religious mentor who came from kind of a crazy past, but like someone that you could actually have a conversation with,
That you could
you know?
relate to, which is the whole point
You
of
could
a
knock back a
prophet,
beer
right?
with.
Like it's supposed to be someone who can relate to you and can give you guidance that you understand because he's a person.
Yeah.
Like why would you even need a prophet? Hmm, interesting.
Yeah.
Something to
Probably
think
not
about.
much there.
Yeah.
Um, and we don't have to get into everything, but one more thing that I did really, really want to mention is the color symbolism. This is, I
Mhm.
mean, everything about this movie I love. This in particular makes me foam at the mouth. I go insane for the color symbolism in this movie. The next time you watch this movie, pay attention to the red and the blues.
Mhm.
They're everywhere, but also it doesn't feel, I mean, sometimes maybe it's just because I notice it now. Sometimes it's like it's so obvious, and then other times it's so subtle that there's things that I still pick up on that are new to me. Um,
Mhm.
Especially with his relationship with Ramesses, because we haven't really talked about it a lot. But that's another huge draw to this movie and another huge factor in making Moses feel human and real is
Mhm.
that he loves his brother and his
He
brother
has a
loves him.
brother.
He
Yeah.
has a brother and they're best friends. Like they're not just like related, but they love each other. And they do everything together. And you see this in their first interaction and every interaction they have until Moses leaves. They are each other's everything. And the heartbreak in Ramesses' voice and face when Moses leaves for the first time. the desperation that he has in trying to get him to stay. Again, this is something that's not historically like accurate necessarily. Um, this is something that's purely creative for the movie, but that goes so far into building up the narrative of Moses had a life before.
Hmm.
He had family and he had to turn against them to follow something that he truly believed in. And the heartbreak and how painful that is for both of them later in the movie in the plagues scene. Again, amazing. Um, but the idea that you were my brother, Anakin, I loved you, having to turn
Yeah.
against the person that you love the most and knowing deep down in your heart that you are right and that this is bigger than either of you, but
Yeah.
still remembering
But it
that
still
time
feels
that
like
you switched the
nothing
heads on
should
the
be.
gods of the Temple of Ra
Yeah.
together.
Like nothing in your life should be bigger than your brother, right? But then in this
Right.
case, it is. And so it's just like, yeah, of course it's devastating for both of them.
Yes. It's
It's a problem
heart-wrenching.
that's like way bigger than it should be for like one guy to handle, you know?
Yes, exactly. And this is where the color symbolism really, really comes into play because throughout the movie, blue is representative of, I mean, blue is Ramses' main color. It represents Egypt, right? And Moses is seen represented a lot with red. And eventually this comes to represent like God and his Hebrew lineage, right? But initially it just kind of represents their personalities. Moses is rash and reckless and, like, wow, really
Hmm.
I don't know if that headstrong is the right word. I think that applies more to Ramses, but Moses is just so thoughtless, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
and later on, this fire grows to evolve more into the wrath of God, the power of God more, like the strength that God can give him and this power within him more so than his own recklessness. Whereas with Ramses, he starts out in blue and is kind of hesitant and is more pulled along by Moses's antics. And so he's kind of like reserved and held back. And then later we see this blue, this kind of reservedness turns into just stubbornness and pride and his heart being just cold, his
Hmm.
blatant disregard for human life. He will not acquiesce for anything because that in itself is losing, not your kingdom being destroyed or your people getting sick and dying or your cattle and livestock being destroyed. None of that is losing. It's the giving in is losing. So this
Yeah.
ice cold immovability versus the fire and the power of God, that development that amplifies. And this is exactly what we were saying about Moses, right? Is the character growth. Moses's negative qualities were diminished and amplified into all of his good qualities were amplified and are more and the same thing happened with Ramsey's negative qualities. He became colder and more rigid and I mean that's life, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it also testifies again just to the that their problems are so much bigger than just them. Like it would be in most other people's lives, it would just be like, oh, red and blue because we have differing personalities, but we still go together as brothers, right? But
Mhm.
like for Ramesses to admit that he's wrong it is impossible for him because that means that he's wrong and he has to give in and that's losing. But it is
Yes.
also then he would have to reframe the entire kingdom, like everything would have to change from the roots up
Yeah.
if he were to admit that he was wrong. And there's a lot of pressure for him to maintain the status quo because this shift would be it would be damaging for a lot of people as much as it heals this other group, it
Hmm.
would, it just would cause a lot of problems. And that's like you know, that's today what people are afraid of. Or like, well, this is the way it is, and so this is that's it. It
Yeah,
is what it is, and there's
we
no
can't change.
we can't change because it would cause too much like turmoil, right? Things would be too maybe chaotic, right? To have to change,
Yeah.
and so we just have to live with this the way that it is. And you can understand like even though he is wrong, you can understand why he can't change, not just personally, but as a leader.
Yeah. And that's a big thing for him too, is that his father, when he reprimanded him, said, You're the weak link." And that's Ramesses' big thing that he says later when he confronts Moses. I will not be the weak link. I will not be the
Mhm.
reason that these ancient traditions, the things that my family has upheld for centuries, false. I won't be the reason.
Right.
So, yeah, you have the weight of history.
The world. Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
and again, he's wrong, but you get it. And that's because he's human. We love him because Moses loved him. We knew, like, you see them as children, as teens, and see them interact, and you know you're it's so painful because it is so believable. You
Yeah.
could see in his face the same thing that Moses does, that young man who is still just silly and goofy and wanting so badly to make his father proud.
Yeah.
How could you hate him? I love it. I love it.
Yeah. It's so good.
There's listen, there's no better trope in this world than brothers growing up together only to be forced apart by forces out of their control. And then they've got that's good. That's good
Yeah,
soup.
it's really good because it's
Yep.
so like while these problems are so like larger than life and not the kind of problems that the average person has, they still feel so relatable and so heartbreaking because we all have that relationship with someone, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're like, I cannot imagine ever giving up this relationship for anything. And then like, but what if you had to? And it's also it's heartbreaking to know like just because this is like a very, very ancient story. And we
Hmm.
know that eventually it did change, right? It didn't have to be that way. And you can make a difference and change these things that are wrong, even though it's a lot of work and it's painful and upsetting and, turns
Yeah.
everything upside down. It can be done. And so then,
Yeah.
even while he has this feeling of like, there's no way to do this, even if I wanted to, which I don't, like, you can see, like, but you could.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. It's not too late to like change the way that the system runs, even if you think that it is. Because every
Hmm.
civilization in history thought that they were gonna last
Yeah.
in that way, right? So yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
different lenses to look at the story, and no matter which one you pick, it's like there's a lot of meaning there and a lot of depth.
Yeah.
It's because of the attention to detail, right?
Hmm.
If they were like, oh, it's just about this, and then they kind of like everything else is an afterthought, you
Yeah.
really could only look at it one way. Because they have detail in everything that they do, they obviously care a lot about the story and telling it in a respectful and interesting way, no matter what you decide to focus on, or if you don't focus on anything and you just let it, like, let yourself experience it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good experience because of the detail that they put into it.
Yes. And that's something because I love digging into the meat of movies, right? I think do you enjoy it, don't you?
I've seen a few movies in my day, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But like other people don't. And that's fine. You don't have to it is amazing, like you're saying, that this movie is just it's a masterpiece. Whether I've seen so many people online say, like I went through the letterbox reviews for this movie, right? Very few of them are low, and if they're low, it's because they're stupid and they didn't understand it, and they said as much. Um, Again, it's you can dislike it, but make sure you're disliking it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But so many of them were like, I'm an atheist, but like, holy shit.
Yeah.
4.5 stars. You know,
Yeah.
because it is a work of art,
Like if
regardless of
this were
whether
real, it would rip. Yeah.
yeah, I saw one that's like one of the rare instances where the movie's better than the book.
True. Yeah.
So good. And on that note, actually, there's a disclaimer, a written disclaimer at the beginning of the movie that says this is based on this story. Um, while historical and artistic liberties have been taken, we believe that this remains true to the heart of the story, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then they tell you where
Which
to
is always the
find,
point of any
which is
adaptation.
always the point. And they didn't necessarily need to say it, but I love that they did.
Hmm.
Even still, with all this care and attention to detail, they wanted to make sure that they told people, this is it's art. It's not necessarily history. We're going to depict it the way that we feel that translates the meaning the best. It's
Hmm.
and we've talked about that before. It's like the Pride and Prejudice, the Joe Wright version versus the, miniseries version. Maybe that's how it was historically, but like, how did it feel? What were the
Yeah.
emotions? Tell
Yeah.
me, like, show me how it felt. And so they changed a few things. We have Ramesses and Moses being brothers, and we don't know necessarily if that was true. We have it being Pharaoh's wife instead of Pharaoh's daughter. Um, a
Hmm.
few odds and ends here and there,
And
but
Moses still being like a young man instead of being like, people in the Bible lived to
ancient.
like 8,000 years old. So,
Yeah. 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 Even the fact when he kills that man in the Bible, it's he murders him and hides the body and then later runs away. Um, that's hard to convey in a sympathetic way, to be a cold
Mhm.
blood murder instead of it was an accidental death, but it was his fault. And these things make it easier to digest, first of all, the emotions. Instead, like we've established Moses as a good man, trying his best, maybe a little misguided, but I mean, to see him outright kill someone, like murder them, that would be hard to still be like, "Ah, I don't want to agree with this guy." But the fact that they can shift
Mhm.
it just a little bit to say, well, maybe this isn't how it happened historically, but this is what it like, this is how it felt. We've got the power and the meaning behind it. Artistic and historical liberties, baby.
Mhm.
They're what I live my life on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
I
have
am
my
going to start
poetic
saying that.
license.
Yeah. uh, yeah. One more thing that I wanted to mention is they made a musical in 2020 based on The Prince of Egypt, and
Mm.
they kept some of the songs and they wrote some new ones. Um, and they changed the story, and I hate it, and I'll tell you why. Because
Okay.
the tragedy in the movie is that Ramesses doesn't change his mind, right? That
Yep.
he won't and he can't. Well, he can't and he won't, I'll say.
Mhm.
Even if the circumstances were different, by the time we get to the end of the movie, he's in so deep that he actively chooses not to let them go.
Yeah.
Uh, and I love that because even still, right up until the end, he's given a choice. Um, when everyone's crowding into the Red Sea, the fiery cyclone departs, leaves the path open, like it's up to you, man. And that's great
Mhm.
because it's his choice. He chooses to do it, and he chooses wrong, basically.
Yeah.
But that's the tragedy and the beauty in the story. In the musical, Moses and Ramesses just has a couple bad influences around him. His wife tells him
Mm.
tells him to make a couple bad
Mhm.
choices. He's got the advisors, the evil advisors that are whispering things into his ear. And at the very end, him and Moses reconcile, they hug, and then they part ways, and Ramesses lets him go. And it's meant to be like a beautiful,
Mm.
happy ending. And I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah. I mean, how can you tell the story of corruption and then the main bad guy isn't even personally corrupt? Like
Yes.
that is annoying.
It's awful. Because I think I texted you when I found out that they made a musical about it, and I was so excited. And I was listening to a couple of the songs. And I was like, oh, those are like, I know that theme. And by the time I got to the end of it, I was livid.
Mhm.
Like that, how?
Look how they
That's the
massacred my boy.
yes, my evil, rotten little man who makes bad choices consistently.
Hmm.
That's who he is. I'm sorry, but he would not say that. I forgive you.
Yeah.
No, I'm not having that.
No. That's
Yeah.
why think of how much conflict there is in this story exactly because he cannot apologize, he cannot forgive, he cannot change his mind. Like,
Hmm.
that's the point. That's the story.
Exactly. The inherent child, like, that's what makes the plagues scene so impactful, is
Hmm.
because it is two brothers fighting one to one, both with bigger things backing them. It's Moses v. Ramses.
Yeah.
And that's painful because it's not anyone whispering in Ramses' ear telling him to do this. It's him.
Hmm.
Moses says positive growth, Ramses says negative growth. By the end of the musical, uh, Moses has positive growth, but Ramses is just like net gain neutral. Nothing changed with
Right.
him. That's the like that's the point of it, is to see how some one can make good choices and choose to change for the better, and one chooses to change for the not
Yeah.
better.
And two people who come from the same circumstance, who are brothers, who grew up together, who had all the same opportunities, and
Exactly, exactly,
still
exactly.
power corrupted one of them and turned the other one to compassion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's good. And
Yeah.
that's a nugget of just one more thing that I wanted to mention real quick is the idea of
Hmm.
corruption. Um, one of the questions that we were asked to think about for one of the assignments that we had this week is as how does it depict people of other faiths? And
Hmm.
this was I had read an article criticizing the movie for being negative towards the Egyptian gods. And I remember as I read it, I was like, I don't think that's right.
Mm.
And so I was like, well, I better rewatch it just to make sure. So
Yeah. Oh, if I have
for
to twist my arm, I guess.
oh no, I've already got the
Play.
popcorn ready.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't. It really doesn't. And
Yeah.
I
It's like
had
I can
never thought
see
about it
like
before.
from my perspective of having only seen it a few times, like I can kind of, from my memory, I can kind of imagine why they would draw that conclusion because, like you say earlier, when they're like switching the heads or whatever, and it's like ha 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 ha. But I ultimately like I never felt like, oh, this is kind of disrespectful. Like that's somebody's
Hmm.
religion, you know?
Yeah.
Like it just feels like it emphasizes their lack of awareness of other people, right?
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
having like a fun joke as brothers, and then later they're like, oh shoot, like those actually mean something to people.
Just a silly little joke for two kids who don't care about consequences.
Yeah.
But even
Almost
still,
like it matters to the story, but whatever.
no, I'm sure there's nothing deeper there. But also thinking about the priests and Ramesses' role as I am Egypt, I am the morning and the evening star. Pharaoh
Mhm.
was God in this, and
Yeah.
so, and what I love is that the movie depicts, especially the priests, as being cheats instead of like followers of evil or whatever. It's they don't really address whether or not the Egyptian gods are there and are interacting. Like they don't diminish that aspect. It's just
Hmm.
these two guys who are in charge of leading the temple, and the guy who sits on the throne are oh, my phone is dying so fast. Hold on. I had to take my headphones out. So my microphone might not be very good, but um they can't imitate the powers of God because they also have power behind them. They don't try to have power behind them. They're just magicians. They use
Hmm.
trickery and illusions to maintain the facade of power. And I love that because it doesn't address whether the religion itself is valid. just says these two guys are not the real deal.
Right.
And
And that's even true like of any
hold on.
like any religion that you chose to think about. It could always be true that the central doctrine is real and true and important, and the people in positions of power and leadership are like don't align with that necessarily, right?
Yeah,
So in this case, because it's a story of the Jews in Egypt, like of course they're going to represent like the Hebrew God as the God and the
right.
Egyptians as corrupt leaders, you know.
Yeah,
But it could be like it could be true in any other story, and they're not saying that like this belief isn't real and you shouldn't have it. They're
right.
saying you can't always trust people who you put themselves up to be noticed and
Exactly.
admired and powerful.
Exactly. It's not this God is real and this one isn't. It's just this one is pissed that you took his people. This is the we
Yeah.
need to do right now. It doesn't invalidate anybody else. And I love too is yeah, the people who are there for attention and for power. It, every time Hotep and Hoy, who by the way are voiced by Steve Martin and Martin Short.
Yeah. Like of course there. What a good
Uh,
choice.
yeah, absolutely. They carry the movie on their back, by the way. But um what they say after every performance is they love it, like it's a performance for them. It's
Mhm.
like they're the Taylor Swift of their world and they're having a concert. You know,
Yeah.
it's not worship.
Everybody's coming to see me, and it doesn't matter what any like repercussions are to the economy, to the environment, to anything. That doesn't matter. That's not real. What's real is what's happening on the stage right now. And people love that.
Mm-hmm. Who cares if our two snakes got eaten by the one snake? We have a laser show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And at least
fantastic.
we had snakes.
At least we had snake. Oh, one
People aren't
real
giving
quick.
us enough credit for having the snakes in the first place.
Had snakes. Love. They're just I love them so much. They're campy and they're ridiculous. It
Mm-hmm.
really just the
Because
movie's
again, it's a movie. Like
it's
it's
a it,
entertaining. It's a
exactly,
movie.
and it's for kids. We're gonna have a little bit of humor in it. We're gonna have Moses have his hair pulled out by a camel who's trying to eat it. Like, you know,
Yeah, of
I
course.
love it. Yeah. Um, but the snakes. So Moses snake eats the other two snakes, right? They don't really show it. They show the shadows of it happening off
Hmm.
screen, and this is because it's an allusion to the Ten Commandments. Because back at the time, the um, I'm trying to remember how to phrase it, but like the restrictions on what you could show on screen were much stricter than they are
Yeah.
today. So nothing gory, nothing even remotely. So they just kind of visually say, "Oh my gosh, his snake ate the other two snakes." Um,
Yeah,
and
and it's
it's
up to you to imagine what that's like. And it's also
exactly,
like it just harkens back to like it's a very old story and like the oldest forms of theater were like shadow shows, right? With puppets and
yeah,
lanterns and stuff. So it's like I think
I thought about that.
it's just like a nice little detail, right? That like, oh, it's an old story. What if we just have just for a little bit, you just see the shadows and you're not seeing what's actually there because they're in Plato's cave or whatever. I don't know. I never read the book.
Who are you waving at?
Oh, that was Ian again.
Again?
Yeah.
Can you tell him for me?
Oh, sure. I have a message from Whitney. She says, oh, that's not a word. Haven't you ever heard of sign language? People say they speak it because it's a language, not because they use their voice. He's not listening.
Really disrespectful.
Yeah.
Doesn't he know we're authorities? Doesn't he know you run a podcast?
Ridiculous. There are dozens of us.
Uh, well, anyway, that's about all I needed to say on it, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
mean,
think I did mention briefly, Jeff Goldblum is in this movie. And so if
yes, yeah.
all of the rest of this isn't proof enough, it is a perfect film.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna put can we do have we done that? Like put my official stamp of perfect film on it.
We do this sometimes, but I don't have, if you can send me a design for your stamp of approval, then I'll do
Sure.
that.
I'll-
Yeah. Instead of just people have to imagine.
yeah. Yeah. And maybe I'll leave it up to the viewer's interpretation of it. Um,
Yeah.
Also,
Oh,
I would
that's
just
beautiful in a way, actually.
isn't it just?
Because that is the whole point of this podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
Remember?
So yeah, it has been almost 2 hours. I would just like to say that this entire episode is a giant
It hasn't.
middle finger
Oh, it has.
to the one guy in my class who said, I think that you can sometimes go too deep into meanings, like in analysis of media. Screw
In
you.
a media analysis class. So
In
it's
the
like,
media
why
analysis
are you
class.
here?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lady in the leopard eating faces party is surprised when they start eating her face. Guy in the
Yeah.
media analysis class is annoyed when people start analyzing media.
Hmm.
Grow up, get out of here. I hate you.
And if that seemed pointed, maybe it was.
Maybe.
I don't know. The thing I was thinking about this the other day too, like when we were talking about it, that even if you're not in this class by choice and it's required for your major or minor, why are you in a major or minor that requires you to take this class? You
Exactly.
could have chosen anything. And like, why are you mad that you're like, oh, I'm in communications and I have to learn about communication. Oh, I'm in film and I have to learn about movies. Like, yeah, you should
What
have
did
gone
you
to
expect?
trade school.
Go to try or get, like go join economics or some dumb bullshit like that.
Yeah,
Get out of here. We don't
whatever.
and
Like, if you
again,
just want something like practical that you already like and already understand, like, pick a different major that fits that better, you know?
yes. Or any other elective, because again, this is an optional class.
Yeah.
You don't have to be here.
I mean, yeah,
Oh, need I say more?
I don't think
I
so.
don't, but I not today. But that's a
Yeah,
guarantee.
we'll
I'll
save
never.
it for next time.
Yeah. Well, this was good. Is there anything else?
Yeah,
Any other comments that you'd like to throw in there? I've
share
talked
with
a
the
lot this
class.
episode, and I'm thank you for your patience.
No, you're good. The only thing I had is that I realized partway through that I'm not gonna remember the title. So if you can just remind me again what the letters stand for.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think like I don't have anything big to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stunning, tremendous,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
effervescent, or maybe ethereal. We had
Ethereal. Uh-huh.
and magnificence or Moses.
Magnificent. Okay. I was really close. Cool. Well, that's great. We should probably at some point actually decide on what to do in the future. We don't have to do all 52, but like,
50.
yeah, we could do 50.
Yeah. So it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah, we don't necessarily have to do that right now, but just like sometime in the coming days, we should
The
figure that out.
the funny thing is about like trying to plan ahead too is there've been some times where we've decided on a movie ahead of time and we feel so proud and like prepared and then we go into it and you're like we're both like I don't really feel like talking about this one today. Let's talk about like the day we talked about Tarzan.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
was
We were just
rough.
like, I don't know, you remember Tarzan? But I think we could have like if we plan 50, but we don't necessarily have to do all those weeks. So if we're like, well, this week we were going to talk about Barbie, but I feel more like talking about this, then we can just swap them, you know? But
That's
this way,
good.
if we have some topics planned, then we'll never just be like floundering, you know?
Let's do it.
Cool.
I'm all in.
Cool.
Okay, well, I have to
Well,
go. I have homework that I need to do today that I really don't want to do. But this has been a really
oh,
nice discussion.
yeah. Let's do it again, same time next week.
Maybe.
All right, sounds good.
Bye. Have a good
Bye. Have a good day.
thing.